Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Purpose Summit. I'm Sue Erda. I'm your host for this event, and I am so happy to be here with you. Specifically, I'm happy that you are here because I know that you being here means that you are on your own journey of purpose. You are consciously aware of what's going on around you in the world and what's going on within you, and you want more of that. You want to be and feel more on purpose in your own life. So I so appreciate you being here and doing this because as we each are on purpose in our own lives, the whole world just gets better and better, more peaceful, and really a better place to live. And we all just, get to give some more love to each other. So thanks for doing that. So I'm really excited today to talk with Karen Flaherty, who I've actually known for many years. I'm going to read a brief introduction of Karen, and then we'll get started talking with her. Karen Flaherty is a certified human design specialist and the best-selling author of Getting to Know You. Before finding human design in 2009, Karen spent 30 years in marketing, training, and sales positions in New York and New Jersey. She brings this wealth of knowledge of the corporate world and her own life experience to her human design coaching practice. Karen is passionate about helping her clients discover their purpose and their genius. She works with individuals, couples, and families, as well as businesses and entrepreneurs to find a new way of reinventing their lives in the 21st century. And Karen, I'm happy to welcome you today. How are you?
I'm great, Sue. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I am thrilled that you're here because, I have known you for so long, and I know that I've known the work that you do, and it's really impactful. I've worked with you, and it's really great. And I know that this past year, a couple of years have brought some new information and things to light for you, maybe a new purpose, if you will, since we're talking about purpose. So we'll see how that comes out in this interview. Even your title that you chose, right? Connecting to bring change. It's up to each of us. And so I know you're going to share with us what this has been for you and what that means. So let's talk about this. When did this purpose, this newfound purpose, this expanded purpose show up for you? And what kind of turning points have you had in recognizing and leaning into it?
Great. So it's been an interesting journey, if you will. I mean, I actually, if I look back, this newfound purpose around social justice started when I was 13. When I first started noticing, and if you, I don't know if you remember in the book, but I actually used the race riots in Newark as the first entry point to my book, because that was a big change for me. All of a sudden, I didn't feel like I was a kid anymore. I didn't feel like I was innocent. I didn't feel like I was separate from the rest of the world. It was this kind of becoming a teenager, becoming a young woman, becoming a person, the oldest in my family, kind of a position of responsibility. And it was during those race riots in Newark when I happened to have a typical New Jersey thing. I was laid up with poison sumac on all my fingers with a horrible case. I couldn't move. I was on the couch literally for 2 weeks. It happened to be during the race riots that happened in Newark, New Jersey in 1967. And I was living not too far from there, maybe about 12 miles from Newark at that point, in northern New Jersey. And I couldn't believe what was going on. I was really taken with it. I was upset by it. I knew that, my Aunt Mary had to actually journey down there each day because she worked at the Star Ledger, which was a big newspaper in Newark. And it was interesting. It was just very interesting because I just started thinking about the world differently, right? This was just prior to the Ohio State riots, right? The Vietnam War, what was all the Vietnam War marches that were going on and things like that. So it was just much more awareness of the rest of the world, right? Like not so much my little cocoon of my family and friends and things like that, but really realizing that there's a much bigger world out there. And so it just, because of my human design, because of knowing that, that's when I started to realize that there was a bigger world and I needed to be a part of it. So it really kind of goes pretty far back. Fast forward to now, in the past year, after George Floyd's death, we started this group, and that's what I write about in my chapter about starting basically a women's group that was a subset of a larger women's group I was part of, University of Women of Flagler. We started this group called Seeking Insights into Solutions, literally a discussion group just to figure out what was going on in the world. Why were these things happening? What could we do to educate ourselves, right? And that's all it was about. There were some people in the group or some people in the organization who thought it was a little too political. But I don't really think that justice and fairness is political. That's just my point of view. You know, people can argue that all they want. But my point of view is that it wasn't political. It was just something I had to do. Once they started the group, I just felt like really wanted to be part of it and do what I could.
Yeah. It's amazing. You talk about that being political. I think of it about being like part of the human connection. It's like why we're all here.
Mhm.
And if that's political, well, maybe it is because it should, I think, be a part of politics.
Mhm. Yeah, right. I mean, I think it should be part of the discussion, and really all we wanted to do was start the discussion, right? Start the discussion, and our whole group, this University of Women of Flagler, is about education. A lot of the women in the group, there's 100 women in the group. A lot of them happen to be teachers and professors, former teachers and professors, and current teachers and professors, but a lot of us were also in corporate, right? Or are in corporate, or used to be in corporate. And so it's a nice mix in the group. And so we basically are helping to educate people about what has gone on, right? That because we're all women of a certain age, as I say in the book, that we're all like 50 to 80 actually, but we're the ones who grew up in the 60s and 50s, 60s and 70s, right? That was our childhood into adulthood. And that's when, like for me, I'm kind of on the tail end of that, but the 70s were my growing up period, right? Late 60s, early 70s. And for some of them, they were growing up in the 50s. And oh my God, Sue, it is such an eye opener to hear the stories, especially of the Black women in the group growing up during that period when there was such segregation in the United States that literally one woman who would go every summer from Philadelphia on the train down to North Carolina to visit relatives would literally have to get off the train in Washington, D.C., change cars because in D.C. it changed to segregated cars.
Oh,
So
wow.
from the Northeast, the entire Northeast down to Washington, it was integrated cars, right? But then in Washington, D.C., she literally would have to go to the cars that were segregated. And those trains, unfortunately, because I would never know, right? They weren't well kept. They didn't have bathrooms, and they didn't allow food back there. So, or they wouldn't serve the food back there. So they had to
Wow.
bring their own food, and basically be on this train with very little services
Yeah.
and not very clean. So it just such literally these stories that these women are telling were so incredible. And I
Yeah.
should back
It
up to why
feels
we were hearing the stories.
Yeah. Yeah, but it feels mind-boggling to me, like, just to hear a story like that, that probably many people listening haven't
And it
even
was the
heard
late
something
50s.
very
It was
specific
like
and
58,
personal.
59.
Yeah, it's not that long ago. That's really the thing. It's just not that long ago.
Mhm.
And there seem to be changes coming about, but it seems like the wheels are grinding so slowly. But let's talk about this, Karen. Let's
Mhm.
get back to this thought about purpose and what this means to you. So how does this newfound purpose, even though you found it when you were a child, but you're really coming into it or back to it again, how does it complement what you're already doing out in the world?
Well, I think of it as a, kind of an extension and an expansion of my purpose as I've laid it out in the last 10 years, since I found human design, which is a personality assessment tool that allows us to just find out more about ourselves. For me, I happen to have a lot of the what they call the love gates in my chart, and so for me, it's always been about connectedness. It's always about how can we be with other people in a way that serves us all, right? That allows us to become more of who we are, and so for me it's all about connection and the fact that we're basically in this ocean, if you will, that we're all drops in the ocean, right? You can think about the connectedness in any way you want. People use different analogies, right? We're a piece of the puzzle, we're a drop in the ocean, we're lots of different things, right? But we all are here to work with each other, to help each other, to grow with each other, and to educate each other. And so this group, I like being in this group because it really just has as its core education. The idea here is that if we can educate and then have conversations we basically did interracial interviews of the different members within the group, so that we, at the beginning, we had 15 white and 15 Black members. So each of us would take turns interviewing each other. And so that allowed us to see how each of us grew up and why it was so different. And so that pure conversation and understanding each other's circumstances, right, allowed us to see how each of us grew up. And so, so we go from education to conversation, and then perhaps to more expanded conversations with other people, other groups, other, just bringing the education and the conversation out to other people. That's our goal. And so that's all about connectedness. Why, the question I, kind of think about is, why on God's green earth would a white male heterosexual have any more power, standing, money than a gay female Black person? Why? Why would that happen? I mean, to me, we're all created equal.
Yeah.
And that's what the Constitution says. And I think we're getting toward that, but it's a process.
Yeah, that's so true. And just, I mean, those are very stark differences, right? And it is that awareness. I
Well,
think,
they are, but are they? We're all
well,
people.
no,
We're all people.
we're all
We should
people.
all be treated the
Absolutely.
same. At the end of the, we created a video as a result of the group we're in. And at the end, as a group, we say, we just want to be free and safe. Free and safe. Because actually one of the people who were writing the script wrote something different. And it was happy and free. But when we put it out to the entire group, it just, something didn't feel right, So this is the level of consciousness that we're being asked to step into, right? That if we as white people don't get that there's a little bit of difference between happy and free versus free and safe, because that's really what everybody wants.
Yeah.
I want to be safe.
Yeah.
And I want to be free.
Yeah.
As white people, we take the happy for granted.
Well, and we take the safety for granted.
I'm sorry, we take the safety for granted.
The safety. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. It's not even, it's like,
why do everybody? They were like,
why do we have to think about that? But obviously we have to think about it. It's become, especially, I mean, if we paid attention to what happened this last year out in public, I mean, what was happening and was being filmed, and we see this stuff that's going on, it's obvious that there's something that's not, I'll say, right here. It's not fair. It's not equal playing field. It's not any of those things. And I know I said it was a stark difference between the two people that you said before. And what I meant is we're looking at literally differences like Black and white, where it's not like that. It's really like we're all in this together. So that's what I meant by that. It's not that we're different. It's that we're the same. But people assume it's different. And then where's the superiority, the supremacy? Where does that come in? It's amazing.
Yeah. And this whole discussion just has us realize how threatened people feel, right? How threatening this is to the hierarchy, to the people who are, and it doesn't even have to be people who are in high places, so to speak. It's really an affront to quite a few people. And I mean, even this week, there was an article in the New York Times about the Journal of the American Medical Association. The editor there had to step down because he didn't really see, he announced on a podcast that he didn't really see that there was systemic racism in medicine. And to be honest, that was one of the big ones that we studied, that we really took a good look at in our work. And looking at, because we looked at housing, healthcare, education, criminal justice, and economics, and all of them showed, very apparent signs of systemic racism within it, just structured, and I should not just, but structured easily within all the rules and regulations that we've lived by all these years, that just pile up one after the other and make it very hard to get rid of some of those things.
Yeah.
And so it's not until we as white people, I think, make the stand, and this is where the connections come in, this is where the connectedness comes in, I think, because the reason I did this over the past year is because it was just too painful. It just hurt me. And I was just feeling like, if it hurt me, how was everybody else feeling?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our sisters, who are Black and
Yeah.
brown and Latina, how are they feeling?
Yep.
It can't
Yeah.
be, and it can't feel safe. It can't
No,
feel
it
safe
can't
if they
be.
can't walk out of their houses, Sue, without feeling as if they're being watched.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
Karen, yeah, I think that this conversation, even though it has been going on for years, I mean, really, it has been, but now it's in the forefront, and it does feel like, for me, it feels hopeful in the sense that something will happen because there's awareness, because it's out there. I do feel that way, but maybe I don't know, maybe I'm feeling that way because I've known things to happen, I've known things to change over the years, but I'm also, a white woman, like I'm okay in this world.
Mhm.
And I say that, and I don't even know exactly what I mean by that, but I'm not afraid to walk outside, But as a gay woman, sometimes there are situations that I walk into that don't feel good. So me with
Right.
that, I
Or
feel,
as a woman, you
or
know?
as a woman, right?
Yeah,
There's layers to all of this.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm happy about the awareness. Tell me
Mhm.
about your group and what's next for you and your social justice group.
So we created a video, and I helped to create it, which was a lot of fun, and that was a an expansion, definitely, of my purpose, right? Just learning video editing. So that was kind of interesting, but it was fun to be part of the group, and it was almost like creating a play, right? So it's this half-hour video that we created, and now it's available on YouTube. And I actually put the YouTube link in my chapter, but people can get to it and see it. And we are getting it out to as many schools and councils, like city councils, as we can, children's groups, educational forums, things like that. We're hoping to get it out there just to start the conversation. We've created a list of questions that people can use to have conversations following the video.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking about this. So the questions and these groups that you're talking to, I guess oftentimes groups attract similar people, right? We all attract who we
Mhm.
are. So maybe the groups that you're talking to, and tell me if this is true, are there like I'll say all white groups and not specifically, they just happen to be together and they happen to all be white. So can they still have a meaningful conversation without having influence from or the perspective of someone that's a Black person?
Um, we actually are gearing it to white groups. Um, I mean, just the way society is structured, Sue. There are Black churches and
Yeah.
there are white churches, right? And that's what what we're hoping some of the barriers will break down around. Yeah, it's actually supposed to be an educational tool for white people, right?
Okay.
Presume and actually this was an assumption we made at the beginning that we really wanted to educate the white people, but as it turns out, Black kids are very interested in it also, or the children's groups that have seen it, or high school groups that have seen it. They're often mixed, and both Black and white were very interested in it because it tells a lot of the history, right?
Mhm.
It talks about all the stories that the women tell, which are we have 4 women who act as our actors, who tell stories within the video. And as I said, it goes on for half an hour, but there are a lot of different stories around housing, around healthcare, around education, and things like that. And so they're really interesting stories. And these are women who lived, as I say in the chapter, during that, say 1950 to 1980-ish period, when all the civil rights policies came into being, all the laws and policies and regulations came
Mhm.
into being. And so as things were opening up, so to speak, they were living through that and seeing the changes and seeing, where it changed and where it didn't. I mean, where I live in Florida, for example, I had never seen a Confederate flag before. When I lived in New Jersey, you see plenty of them down here.
That's true.
And that's why I say there's the reason I was planted here,
Yeah.
apparently, because there's work to do. There's definitely work to do. In fact, I'm a member of the Southern Poverty Law Council, and they send out information all the time. And one was, I have it nearby, but I won't pull it out for you, was a map of the United States and where all the white supremacy groups are, and
Yep.
all different kinds of groups in the United States. And there's a plenty in Florida.
There's plenty in Florida and Texas. I used to live in Texas. That's when I first saw the Confederate flags. When I moved there, I was in seventh grade. I moved to
Mhm.
Texas and I see Confederate flags. I'm like, what is that? That's not the Texas state flag. What is that? I didn't even know about it. It wasn't on my radar.
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
so there are definitely conversations to be had here, and people are opening up. And I think we are having, from what I've heard, I haven't been in the groups who had these discussions, but from what I've heard, the discussions have really been quite eye-opening and very thoughtful, and really, uh, again, very educational. Very
Yeah.
educational. It's really
Awesome.
about opening our eyes, right? It's about finding out more about the other, right? People we think of as other, right? As opposed to being inclusive. We say that we're inclusive, or we think that we're inclusive, but we're really not.
Yeah.
It's one of my teachers said the other day, inclusivity is an either or. It's like you're pregnant or you're not. You're either inclusive or you're not, right? If you're
Yeah.
inclusive, you're inclusive.
Right.
It's not shades of gray in there. You're either inclusive or you're not, or you prefer to be a group that like a country club, even our University Women of Flagler. There you have to have a 40-year degree to be in this group. Well, that's okay. Everybody's included who has a 4-year degree. That's like a little different, but it's that kind of idea. You know.
Sure.
So, are you inclusive or aren't you?
Yeah. That's a
And can
great
we
question for
expand
our
that?
audience.
Can we
Great
expand that
question.
definition?
Yeah. Do I feel connected? Do I feel that I'm the same as other people? Do I feel they're the same as me? Am I open to that? That we all have this, we're more alike than we are different. I say that all the time, and I know that it's true because I feel that and I see that, and yet we do see the separation.
Yeah.
So Karen, let's talk about this. This is great. I love that you're so passionate about this. What is next for your group? And what would you ask more than that? What would you ask the people that are out there listening to this right now? Okay, you've excited them. You've piqued their interest, and not just their interest, but their hearts. Like you've touched them. What would you ask them to do in support of social justice?
So I think what we're finding in the group is that all we can have is conversations, right? All we can have is conversations that are educating people about something they may not know about. There's a woman then this was another, this came out while we were working on the video, but there's a woman, Dr. Loretta Ross from Smith College, and she wrote a book and an article, and I've seen interviews with her, and she just says, what if instead of, because we're in this cancel culture period, right? So she says, what if instead of calling people out, we call them in,
Mm,
right? So we call people in, we say, let's have a conversation. You really don't think that your neighbor should be able to walk on the streets at night or be able to be safe in the neighborhood? Why is that? Why? Call them in, let them speak. And she references her mentor, Reverend C.J. Vivian, who had a wonderful quote, and I'll just read this. Whenever you ask people to give up hate, you have to be there for them. You have to be willing to hold their heart,
wow.
right? So that's what it's about. I don't want to say it's a soft approach, but it's an encompassing approach, right? If I believe that everybody's connected, then that includes the haters too, right? That includes the people who aren't quite as open to this, but who might be open to it if I take a different approach. That's the only way we're going to get people to see that everybody's connected.
Yeah.
It's the Joan Baez songs, right? It's the stuff from the 60s. I just happened to see her on the Kennedy Honors the other night. She was amazing. She looks amazing. She's still fighting the good fight, right? And it in a way gives people a purpose, I think, when you can expand this past retirement age or past your usual working time, or just being able to be out there. And it doesn't have to be a full-time thing, but certainly I think we all can take it on as, and especially I would say if we're white people, if we're
Mhm.
people who are not worried about our safety, we should be able to speak on behalf or in support of somebody who isn't feeling safe,
Yeah.
right? So, I've seen some suggestions that if you see somebody who seems to be who might be a person of color being stopped by a police car, there is nothing wrong with me stopping as a citizen to make sure that that turns out okay.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes it might take a little bravery, depending on where you are or what's going on or what time of day it is. But if you have the opportunity, I would just say do that. You know, and even little things. I was thinking the other day, I see, well, it used to happen, whether I was in New York or down here in Florida, that people who are not white are made to wait longer than I am, you know? And I'm like, what's up with that? You know, so it's noticing those little things when other people are being, but they're not being respected, right? If they're not being respected, I can say, no, you go ahead, you know, you go ahead. You were here first, right? It's just little things like that. Just because I'm called to go next doesn't mean I have to go next, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just those little tiny, you know, as they call the microaggressions that add up, right?
Mhm.
Because if I was a person of color, I get really upset after
Sure.
a while. And to be honest, I don't understand why some people don't get more upset, except there's, you know, there are books. I have a book right here. Why don't we riot? Because if we riot, if we get upset, or if the people of color get upset, if they get, um, you know, if they're marching and things like that without other support, without the white people supporting with them. And that's why George Floyd's marches were so different, because the white people were involved again.
Yes.
Like the 60s, right? Somebody referred to it as like the 60s when everybody was marching for civil rights,
Yeah.
right?
I love this. You know, Karen, we could probably talk about this forever because, you know, and for me, in a sense, but also for many people that are listening, this probably is an opening. This is probably something maybe they haven't thought about this in this way. You know, maybe they haven't been paying attention, although it's hard not to this past year. But maybe they didn't realize how we as white people can be a part of this and be a part of the change. And really, we are the ones that need to make the changes and
Yeah.
start vocalizing and being a part of it too. So I really appreciate this conversation with you today. Thank you for this. And I hope people you're open to people reaching out to you if they want to
Oh, sure.
about this topic in any way, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. And also, Karen, I know that your story in the book is great. I did read the whole thing. It's wonderful. It's really eye-opening. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for doing this. We need more people like you to be bringing this to the forefront. And
Well,
maybe
we
let's let it be us,
there's,
everybody listening.
it's a big mission and we need help.
It's a big mission, absolutely. And Karen, I know you have a gift for the audience as well. I know we didn't talk really about your human design work, but I know you have a gift for the audience that you can offer now if you'd like to.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm so glad the focus was on the group for about social justice. But I am offering a gift, and it's basically a free human design chart. Plus, when you get the chart, you'll also get access to a free course that I've created to help explain the chart until you are ready to dive deeper.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Karen.
Thank
And I
you.
appreciate you so much. Thank you for being a part of this book too, sharing the story in the book. It's going to get in lots and lots of hands. And thanks for today. As always, I appreciate you as a friend and also as a human. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Sue. It was my pleasure. So great to
Awesome.
see you.
Awesome. And listeners, again, thank you. Like I said in the beginning, I know that you are on your own journey of purpose, whatever that is for you. So thank you for doing this. Also, I know that you'll want to buy this book, Women Living on Purpose, on launch day, which is June 29th. On June 29th, if you come to our website, which is womenonpurposebook.com, womenonpurposebook.com, you will be guided to Amazon to buy the book either as a paperback or as a 99-cent Kindle that day. So either one, when you bring your receipt number back, you will receive and plug it into our website. You will receive access to more than 35 gifts from our beautiful authors and partners, and you will love every single one of them. So, I mean, you know, gosh, do that. It is such a gift for you to have these gifts, and it'll just open up your awareness more to your own purpose. So thanks for that. I appreciate you. Continue to listen to these really eye-opening and beautiful interviews from the summit. Thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day. I wish you a wonderful journey of purpose. Bye for now.